It's wonderful to be talking to all of you today, although I do need to be honest with you about something. 2020 was not a great year to be a futurist. Probably not a great year to have been a fortune teller or some kind of psychic either. I get asked all the time, how is it that you failed to see COVID-19 coming? And it's true, I completely missed the pandemic. But in many ways that wasn't my real mistake. My real mistake was underestimating the capacity of some external event like a coronavirus having the potential to not only change the world as we know it, but essentially bringing the world of 2030 forward a decade to today. And in a sense, that is exactly the position we now find ourselves in. Although interestingly, it's not the first time we've had to face a civilization scale event like this. Go back 100 years to the Spanish flu of 1918, and what's fascinating are not just the striking similarities with today, social distancing, face masks, quarantines, but also the very similar massive transformations that were also kicked off by that virus. I mean, I'll give you a simple example. So many men had either died during the war or had fallen sick from the virus that in 1918, women were forced to take increasing positions of responsibility and authority. This, more than anything else, set the stage for the demand for the universal right to vote some years later. There weren't just big cultural and economic changes, there were also technological shifts as well. Take a look at this ad from the New York telephone company, advocating the benefits of this incredible new device, the telephone. Perfect for staying in touch with friends or colleagues who might be trapped in quarantine. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking this ad came out in the middle of the flu epidemic, but actually came out a good 8 years earlier when they had a cholera outbreak. You see, by 1918, so many of the human operators working switchboards had fallen sick from the virus. Telephone companies were begging their customers not to use telephones for fear they might overwhelm the network. It's an appropriate reminder that then, as now, that even in a time of accelerating technology and disruptive change, it's people and culture and humanity that still really counts. And I want you to keep that in mind because we are absolutely now moving into a time of accelerating change. I like to think that this is a new world, a world that's going to run on very new rules. I've got 3 rules actually to share with you today, and here is the first. I believe that there will no longer be any such thing as digital disruption, just digital delivery. Let me explain. I feel like we've been talking about digital disruption forever, and I'm sure by now you know all the cliches. And it was almost like there was something special about these kind of born in the cloud next generation organizations. Airbnb disrupting the hotel and travel business, Uber disrupting the transportation and taxi business. It was almost like they had something in their DNA that allowed them to operate differently, to think differently, to develop different business models. Well, after the last 18 months, I think one thing is abundantly clear. We are all disruptors now. If you haven't in recent times figured out the importance of digital transformation, of automation, of artificial intelligence, of using data to transform the way you approach decisions, then, well, you were probably not only not a digital business, you were no longer in business. Essentially, the pandemic has taken all of this discussion of digital transformation and really turned it into a discussion around digital delivery. Digital disruption is not important anymore because it's simply the price of staying in business. So if you want to really understand what's really possible now and what the next frontier of change is, we have to ask more interesting questions. We have to be bolder. We have to think bigger. In other words, we have to consider what is now possible in an age of artificial intelligence that was simply not possible before. What I'd like to contend is that in the near future, AI-powered organizations won't simply be faster or able to run cheaper or with less people. They will be profoundly different on the inside in the way that they operate, the way they approach opportunities, and the way they scale up towards the future.